prolong that position a bit more, because that was the best chance in the match so far. I mean, it's after 3 games, it's 2.5, and for maybe half a minute there, he was up a pawn. That's
Yeah,
the most
completely
he's had.
agree. I think that judging by how the games have gone, and especially because this one, Eric, I'm not going to lie, I think it should have probably been a Hans victory with some of those other variations played. I think you got to take your chances as Ding. There haven't been that many in the match, and now we're back in another position, which is d4. We see pawn sacrifice, temporary, and the knight goes to b5 in order to recapture on d4. But we're back in a position where I think with the midway break looming in this 5+1 portion, Ding Liren has to get on the board here in a more meaningful way than just a draw from maybe a better position.
For sure. And at least in this position, we once again have a isolated queen's pawn future. When white takes on d4, d5's weak. The way the match has gone, the games it's 2.5, but we've had playable positions. Ding has had sharp positions. Hans, his method of winning this match, he's not playing solid. He's outplaying Ding on the board, on the clock so far. But at least Ding doesn't have to worry about, hey, I'm playing this match, I just can't get positions. I can't get play. The play is there. They're just very complicated, sharp positions. See the eval bar if you're watching at home. The players with low time on the clock, these positions are so hard to play accurately. So you're not expecting your opponent to play perfect. There's definitely a lot of variance in some of the positions we're seeing, and at least that gives Ding some hope there. Just has to navigate them a bit better, because right now Hans has been dictating the play for sure.
He has, and I've also felt that when Hans has things flowing, that he's playing in a rhythm, but also even the questionable positions, maybe the slight misses, Ding isn't capitalizing. And so Hans has been surprised at a few moments that maybe a better move hasn't been played. And he feels like maybe he's been let off the hook or given a few more chances. So Ding is going to have to capitalize a little bit more going forward. But in the grand scheme of the match, Eric, with 5+1, not even halfway done yet, I think he's definitely got some time, and 2.5 to half is nothing to be too scared about. But obviously we're reading into what we've seen so far, and things are going to have to change.
For sure. But if you're taking a look at this match beforehand on paper, you take a look at Ding and his path to winning. Typically, when he wins matches, he plays like incredible chess. He pushes the positions, converts them. He's not known as a player, Mon, that wins bad positions or is super tricky. He's a bit more narrow in his approach. Technical. He can play sharp positions really well, but he's not like trying to flag players. He's not going for cheapos. Hans and some of the young, really strong players, they play all sorts of positions, and they even play just bad positions confidently. Ding doesn't generally have that in his arsenal. He needs good positions where he's dictating the play. And unless he's bringing something new today to the table, he's much more predictable in his approach. But if he's not achieving good positions against Hans, that's not going to work. He's going to have to play looser
Yeah, I
or
think it's
try
actually
something different.
that's a really good point. I think back to the game that Ding played with the white pieces, the rook end game, where he was just down a pawn and just got outplayed start to finish. Like there wasn't a lot of resilience, and so I think the games where Ding has the white pieces, there has to be more of an emphasis. And so looking at this game, Eric, I like it a lot more than the game they saw previously, because the last time Ding had the white pieces, honestly, it was kind of a disaster of an opening, didn't lead to any meaningful advantage. And now I believe he's probably going to be considering this move bishop c7. It nudges the queen over to a6, but you can also imagine the knight on b5 jumping into the c7 square. So if that bishop from c7 ever moves, it makes way for knight c7 to happen.
I like the idea behind bishop c7. It's the testing move. It's the critical move. Just he took some time to play it, and already,
Yep.
if he's going to be down on the clock every game, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, he's also not the speediest player. He's not the most confident in a time scramble. I think Hans would probably take himself there. He can definitely hold his own, but the nerves really kick in these time scrambles, even from a 5-minute or a 3-minute game. I like the position. We mentioned the isolated pawn in a previous game. Look at the difference here. Now the d4 square is controlled by white. So I imagine Hans is going to be looking at some move, maybe with the knight on f6, trying to unleash that bishop on g7. But if you don't really control the d4 square, then I really love Ding and how he's going to play against this isolated pawn here.
This is a great position for Ding to get back in the match. You can absolutely consider taking on e6. Yes, black will probably take back with the f-pawn, no longer possessing that isolated queen's pawn, but then white has the bishop pair. Open position. Always putting pressure on b7. At some point, white would maybe bring that light squared bishop to h3. He doesn't take it yet, but this position has lots of play. I would say white is definitely a little bit better. And just great opportunity for Ding to imbalance things.
Yeah, I
He
think
played
that
e3. I thought he was going to take on e6 and just play that position. It's the easy to play position, open position for the two bishops without much risk. E3 is fine, but he's not going to get away from that
it's
decision.
just fine, I think. Like it's
that's right.
only okay. And so we're wondering whether maybe he was going to go for something a bit more decisive, maybe go for a bigger advantage. But for now, Ding is happy to just enjoy the advantage that he currently has. I think you can take another kind of safe approach with a move like rook d1, like maybe rook c d1 to cover knight d2 and also defend on d4. But I was also wondering, are we going to see something a bit more aggressive, like some captures maybe in the middle of the board? B7 pawn is loose, which means you can't really slide the queen over as confidently to capture an e6. And now with some double pawns in the center, clear advantage for Ding here.
Clear advantage, and you just want to make sure your dark square bishop doesn't get trapped on f4. That's the main thing. I'm not sure if g4 is a move to consider here at some point to just extend that diagonal, have that g3 square. But structurally, Ding has a serious pull here. Double isolated pawns on the e-file, b7 loose, and just not a lot of counterplay for Hans. So, in terms of making Ding feel uncomfortable, okay, h4, still watch out. If that pawn on e6 can move, e5 traps the bishop. Right now, that pawn is pinned, but Hans is eyeballing it.
Yeah, I was wondering if we would see just king h7, making the threat of pawn to e5. But I think that queen b6 is, also looking towards a potential endgame where if you take this queen, the pawns look terrible for Hans, but the a2 pawn will be hanging, the b2 pawn will be hanging, and pawn to e5, the move that you've been talking about, Eric, will be threatened. So it's just a pretty clever move.
It's very clever. We need a move here right now. I'm wondering, can we keep the queens on the board? Because black's king is loose. The pawns are weak around there. If I could play queen a4, I'd love to. I just trying to calculate if black can get away with e5 and trap the bishop. You do not want to trade queens if you're in Ding's shoes. He's anything but trading the queens. If you have to, it's a concession. Gives black a lot of counterplay.
So bishop c7.
But this loses the b2 pawn. Yes, black has these weaknesses, but you've lost the full pawn. That's not it.
And rook c2, bishop e5 maybe trades further. This move even allows b5, which I don't know that you want to. Like b5, a5, I start to get concerned about the a pawn just going all the way, Eric.
Absolutely. If we can talk about e6, e4 being weak, but black has a win condition by getting that a pawn down the board.
That's
and all
terrible.
of a sudden, the queens are off. Ding has pinned his own bishop. And I don't see counterplay. a4.
The bishop on b2 covers the whole board, right? There's no danger.
No danger at all. You can put the bishop on h8 if you're really worried and just push the a pawn. Not only is this easy to play, Ding's down to 3 seconds here. He's got to take. You got to take.
And you mentioned, Eric, a lack of resilience, and we kind of see it on display